Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins, and man, I'm excited. I love my podcast, and today is going to be absolutely no exception. I have Dani Katz and Benjamin Balderson for a discussion on a very important topic that's always on my mind: demangling the masculine and the feminine. I made that word up, but I think I'm going to roll with it. So without further ado, I am going to bring Ben and Dani on. Come and say hi in the chat if you're there. Welcome, Dani. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Super happy. Yeah. This is our Dani's and our second podcast. And Ben, man, I can't count. You've been on a lot. Very good. Hello to the accidental alchemist, and Miss Dawn Lester is in the chat. Everybody's loving her. That's awesome. Very good. So, there's lots going on in my world. It's been kind of a new incarnation. I'm good at that. I told the whole story in my brand new podcast called Beth of Fresh Air. And that happens every Friday. So tomorrow,
good one.
Thank you. Yeah, I started with another one with another person and it wasn't working out. And they're like, oh, I need the name. And it's like, you have the name, you take the name, run with the name. And I prayed to God for a new name. And then someone sent me a message saying, Beth, your podcast is a breath of fresh air. And I'm like, breath of fresh air, breath of fresh air. So let's roll with that. I hear it periodically and I appreciate that very much. So
excellent wordplay. A+ from the word witch.
Thank you. Aren't titles daunting? One writer to another?
Totally. It's one of those areas where the evil propagandist that is ChatGPT can sometimes come in handy.
It's true. I'm in the process of creating a new course, and I had a certain word in my mind that I wanted to use, and I wasn't letting myself use it because it's in the title of another course. But it turns out these two are very close companions, and it was ChatGPT that pointed it out that it would be perfect to have. The first one is called Journey Code. The second one is going to be called Creator Code. And honestly,
right.
I couldn't be happier with that. So yeah, ChatGPT has come in a little bit handy, made me a banner that I don't hate, and that's all I ask.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not hard to please. So very good. We're going to be talking about the masculine feminine today. Ben and I have had lots of discussions about that, but in the last interview that I did with Dani, it started to come forward and I realized it really deserved its own time. I saw you guys on Deliberating Dog-Face Dudes one night, and it was a very natural conversation, very beautiful. I noticed Ben was saying, Dani, you come anytime. This was the best one yet. And I didn't take that personally because I've been on that show myself. I'm not good at night podcasting. Honestly, you can't, I'm a blur. So yeah, just doesn't work for me.
And I absolutely love Beth. There is no doubt. Spent personal time with her, in-person time with her. But Dani is a spitfire that for me, I'm a guy's guy. And if you can put your elbows up and give some shit and take some shit, which no offense to Beth, I'm not saying she couldn't take shit. She's not that type of person. Where Dani is an elbows up, and she is quick and a spitfire, and I had a gas chatting with her just on a personal note.
That's fantastic. So elbows up has been propagandized in Canada. They're telling us elbows up, but what does that actually mean? I've tried not to.
It's from hockey. It's a hockey reference. You put your elbows when you're real aggressive, you get the elbows up, so you hit them in the head with your elbows as they're going by, and it's no longer nice guy. It's elbows up. You're gonna meet the hard parts, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I appreciate your appreciation, Ben, because I've had podcasters recently like apologize for me and make excuses because I do throw those elbows. So it's nice to know that that is welcome with you and the Deliberating Dog-Face Dudes.
Oh, it's delightful.
Thanks.
Even I'm a true heathen. Where if you find somebody even that's you battled and they were battle worthy, you're like, salute. That is not something that I don't like that. especially in the debate community, a lot of what's I've seen happening over quite some time is they will pick somebody that's way lesser, just like taking candy from a baby and then strut around. You're like, where's the pride in that? You've got some real mistaken pride. If you're even in a battle of words, if your opponent was good and you held your own against somebody good, that's worth being proud of. Not beating up somebody that should have never been there with you.
Agreed.
Yeah, good one. On that topic, I actually was looking through my podcast comments, which I didn't even know existed before then. So forgive me for anyone that had a late response. And one of the comments said that they used to love my podcast, but they're sick of it now because I always contradict my guests. And so that was a fascinating kind of thing. I don't hear that a lot. And frankly, I will do that to subjects that are really important to me. It's often why we'll have people on that don't talk on my subjects. I have to just fully admit that because, it's happening in the House of Free Will right now. There's a law discussion going on. And I know there's a bunch of bull crap being talked about. And I don't have the skills to, give all the ins and out about why it's bull crap, but I do have a secret weapon who speaks very well to it. And I'm going to speak up. I can't be the conduit of people being misled. And I know I'm not the be all and the end all of the authority on what's true and what's not true. But, that's why I do what I do, is to look in and see what could be more true, right? What is going to actually be helpful to people and benefit in the long run, not just sound good in the short term or feel good in the short term. So
it's weird that people are taking issue with contradicting or people having differing opinions. Like, this is what we need to get back to knowing how to do respectfully. Like, we don't always have to be on the same page. It's weird to me that that's a deal breaker for people at this point, especially people who are turning into any of our content here. You would think that they would have a thick enough skin to be able to withstand that.
You got it. Exactly.
Back in the day, because I'm old school with this, like back in the day, we were just weirdos that listened to Art Bell and shit and Free McFly. Like, we were the weird people. Everybody made fun of us. Like, you had to have that thick skin. It's so weird. And you see this, and it's not just our community, it's all communities. Like, even in the political community, it can't just be a disagreement at this point. And I am old enough to have seen the hype up of this over the years, but it's an absolute visceral hate for the other side. And they have to do that. I recently had a debate with two Orthodox, well, one's Orthodox and the other one's a Catholic, I think, and very right-wing Republican. And they kept over and over trying to pigeonhole me and myself and Steve Poikonen into this lefty thing, so that way they could hate us. So that way, or just like a Christian thing where they need to turn you into a demon for those people that are like that. And it has to be this. I can't even oppose your ideologies if I don't hate you and hate your ideology. It's like, well, that's insane. What kind of a discussion is that? Are you babies?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing that women, for example, if we start just segueing into the topic here, women tend to be more emotional in their perceptions, their decisions, their interactions, all of that kind of thing. And hate is, in fact, deeper than emotion. It's the programming part. And what people don't like to hear, because the whole self-love movement was extremely, popular, is that love and hate flip as a program. They go from one to the other, right? So you guys have probably had this where people come in and they're just loving you and they think you're great. Everything you do is so fantastic. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're on the other side and they've done the demonizing and they hate you, never want to see you again. It's just like, all righty, what makes that a good contribution to any kind of discussion or learning, right? That's the big part that I think, like, why can't we keep learning?
Especially when the hate is not based on us mistreating them or stepping out of line. It's because we have different opinions on abstractions. And now, like, society's been social engineered where that has to equate to hate. which makes our world very small and insular and lame.
Indeed. Yeah, you got it.
Well, it's that they felt very strongly about you. And as Beth said, the two are the same thing. They literally, it's no different than hot and cold. It's just a circle of the same thing. So what that is an extremely strong emotion, and they felt this strong attraction to you. And now because of that, to balance that out, it has to be this strong repulsion. And a lot of that is just because and this is something that, again, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've went to live events and things like that. And a lot of these people, I don't have this problem myself, but I just witnessed it, because with me, what you see is what you get. That's just straight out. Meet me in person. There is zero difference. Like, what you thought I was, that I really am that. But most people, they keep something of their private self away from the screen, and this is more of a projection, an ego. And so these people align with that. Well, then they start filling in blanks that that other person hasn't filled in, because you assume if you agree with me on these things, you agree with me on these things. And then when that ego gets disturbed and the real person doesn't match their projection, now they got to hate you. Now you've tricked them. Now they're angry. They were feeling what is that thing with that one-way relationship thing, where they've developed a relationship and you don't even ever see them.
Unrequited?
No, a parasocial bond, where they've developed this whole parasocial bond, and you don't even know them. Again, meeting it in person, like sometimes, and some of those people will come up and they will say things to you like you should know them, and you're like, I've never met you. I don't know you. I'm very uncomfortable now. I don't, and I'm already rather, and this applies for again, this goes toward, we used to have, what's up, billing? We used to have be the rejects of the rejects. That most of the bigger, older speakers that have been around a while were very socially awkward as a people. Like when you're behind in the just speakers area, and everybody lets their guard down, most speakers are weird as shit. In this community, I imagine it holds for most communities, but in this one especially, we were all super socially awkward. We were the weird people that were into stuff normal people didn't like. We didn't pick Republican or Democrat. We shit on both sides, and then both sides were like, oh, you're the enemy. Like, because now you went against, rather than join their paradigm, you went against the whole paradigm. And so now they as a whole come at you and hate you. And
yeah, exactly. I love what you're talking about, and I put it in the category of persona, which on the emotional scale is an aspect of pride. So pride is the thing that's hidden from us, but obvious to everybody else, right? We don't see it, everybody sees it. And so most people have been trained to go through their life with some kind of persona. And that's, I can attest to that with Benjamin. You and I haven't met Dani, but I have a feeling you're pretty real in real life too.
Yeah.
And there is no difference. There was no like, oh, who was that person? Now I have to readjust or anything. And I've met tons of performers, and I projected on them that they were a good person and kind and full of love and stuff. And then when you meet them, they're just all, like you said, just awkward and weird. And this is the biggest divider of all, persona. Right? When you're wearing that mask, when you're running in pride, the foundation of that emotion says, I'm here, you over there, and the two do not meet.
What I would classify it as is, and this is the true epitome, and the word gets thrown around in the community all over the place. But what ego truly is the way the world perceives you. It's not the real you, because the real you, a lot of time, for a lot of people anyways, and this is part of where this could get so deep psychologically, where when there's a discrepancy between the real you and the ego you, this is when you start having problems. You go through midlife crises, shit like that, because there's a discrepancy between the two things. But The ego is what's projected out to the world. And there's a lot of people, and this is such a guy thing. I know it's going to sound like a nerdy fucking guy thing, but when I was a little boy, again, I'm a guy's guy, I watched wrestling. And we went to live wrestling events. And one of the first events that I ever went to, one of my favorite wrestlers was Wahoo McDaniels. This is AWA days. I'm old. And Wahoo McDaniels got smucked over the head with a chair by Kurt Hennig, who wasn't even Mr. Perfect yet. He was just starting, and he was the bad guy, right? Well, also at the same event was Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, who were the Rockers, and they did their stuff in signs so the deaf kids could understand them, and they were the good guys. Well, this is a small, tiny town, and so the setups aren't real fancy. They don't have fancy areas to hang out and stuff. Well, my cousin and I met Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty in a hallway, and we just walked over and we just wanted to say hi. You know, we're like 8 and 10 or something, and they looked at us, said, "Get away from us! This autograph signings after the show, blah blah." At the same, just rude as hell. And there's nobody else around to see it. And at the same event, we met Kurt Hennig in some dark corner after he'd smucked Wahoo McDaniels in the head with the chair, and he's the bad guy. And Kurt Hennig squatted down and sat on his heels, and he talked to us for like 5 minutes, like, "You guys having a good time?" You know, and was just totally the nicest guy. And actually he was from Minneapolis, and he would go down and hang out, and he liked going to Mystic Lake Casino and gambling. But I never once, and he was a fairly known figure, heard anybody say any different about the guy. He was a bad guy in wrestling. His ego to the world was, "I'm a bad guy." He'd come out all super cocky, but he was actually a super nice guy. And if in that instance, you know, it's nice. It's like, oh, the bad guy's a nice guy and he's awesome to hang around. But in some of these, they're projecting something that they're not. And when you find out what they really are isn't as likable, you're like, oh, this is a real problem. But what it is ego and the projection to the world of one thing. And then there's the actual you.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that gets really complicated because how you think people perceive you is often not accurate either. There can be truth in it, but we make that shit up. That's one of the big problems in the world today. We make shit up and don't check the facts. I remember I got into the habit at some point when I had a really strong sense that someone was feeling or thinking something about me. I just go ask them. And yeah, it could be an awkward or uncomfortable moment usually for them. But as soon as I found out, oh, they're not thinking like that, then, oh, perfect. I don't have to think like that either. Let's just let that go.
So on the same token, and this is a little secret about me, and Beth has met me in person and knows this. At the end of the day, most people see me pretty scary. I'm a very intimidating person, and I hold that. And if you ever actually spend time around me and meet me, you're like, and most people will tell you, no, they don't feel intimidated. They feel safe around me. They feel good. And I put out that intimidation on purpose. I'm okay with the world feeling that because, like, in the area I live, there's a lot of meth head thieves, lots of them. And there is a reputation of don't go near that guy's house. That's a nice thing. It's very similar to anybody that's read fantasy books. The Wizard's Island always has a nasty reputation, but you get there and he's actually a pretty nice guy and everything else. He just wants to keep the undesirables away, make it so people aren't using and abusing those kind of things, which is actually just a protection of those in that area. They're protecting their area. So understanding the ego and using it appropriately is a very effective weapon also.
Yeah, I can totally relate, Benjamin, because I think people think I'm super intimidating as well, even though I'm a small woman, but I see it through the lens of the 28th gene key. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the gene keys, but the 28th gene key is about totality. And so I came to terms with the 28th gene key a long time ago where it was like, if people need to cast me as villains in their story, I love them enough to play that role. I'm not going to micromanage how they see me, but I'm what I took from what you said, Ben, is like, I think people who know me and love me feel safe around me because I'm super real. I'm going to tell it like it is. And I don't feel safe around people who are pretending to be nice, like these good guys in wrestling, and really weren't. Like, for me personally, I'd rather someone be a total straight shooter so I know where I stand. And I think that's where a lot of like the mischaracterizations, at least of myself and maybe for you as well, Ben, come from.
Absolutely. It's like you said, it's if I don't know you, it's elbows up. If I know you and we're safe, it's elbows up for everybody else, and then you feel safe now because you know that I'm not going to actually hurt you. It's like my pit bull. My pit bulls, his growls still sound horrible, still mean. Best met tier, Billings met tier, and he'll growl at me and he sounds like he's going to rip my leg off, but him and I love each other. And so it's scary for you, not for me.
Yeah, it was a really fun part that in person, say we'd be standing there in the field and we'd be having a good chat, and it's, you know, it feels very safe and nice. Not that I characterize everything based on safety or not safety, that we've been trained to do that. And then all of a sudden, you know, a dog would be getting out of line and you would bellow into the rolling hills. And but it didn't shake me. It didn't rock me, because I can take volume and I can take what, you know, there's another word for that, maybe amplitude or something. But I read the vibe. Like I know whether something's coming from love or hate, and you can be loud and high amplitude from a place of love.
I think it's also healthy masculine. Like that's what we're starved for. Like I love when I'm hanging out with a man, and if he slips into warrior mode to take care of stuff, I feel way safer. I love that. Thank you, men, for doing that.
Yeah, it's weak men that are intimidated by small things and get super aggressive over very small slights. And what that is it's very similar to when you look at dogs. Chihuahuas are the reason that they're so very attackful is because they're scared of everything. Everything is an actual threat to them because they're weak little dogs. Where my dog Tyr, my best friend Brian, he's got a little tiny dog, right? And it's a mix of, it's a pug mixed with that got bred with too many other weird things. And it's just, you know, a poor little guy. He's bitten Tyr like in the face like 8 times, and Tyr just wags his tail at him and did you bite my face, dude? and in no way does he get angry about that. But if a dog that's actually, he's so great about this, if a dog that's actually a threat to him comes up and threatens him, now the fight's on. But it's these weak men that they're the dudes that are abusing women and going around pushing around much smaller dudes. And you find out that when an actual somebody that is in their range threatens them, they run away like little cowards. All of them do. It's really an interesting thing to watch in life. And what I equate that to is they're more on the predator class, because it's interesting. You see even the most wicked predator, and I live out in the mountains where that's a real problem. I have to fight lions and bears, you know, mountain lions and bears and bobcats on a regular basis, and not including the normal foxes and raccoons and all that kind of crap. And predators are the biggest cowards. They really are. If there's any fight to be had, they run away. They want you to be scared. They want you to run away. The runaway triggers a thrill of the hunt for them. Like mountain lions are known for it. They'll sit and stalk you and try and get you to run away from them, and then they get excited. They don't want something that wants to fight with them. Where now, like, as opposed to the what we call an LGD, you know, which mine are pit bulls, and then I've got a Brock Saint Germain, but large guard dog. The large guard dog doesn't go doing that shit. But when the fight comes, like my pit bull Lickus just had not even 2 weeks ago, had a bear treed up on top of the chicken coop, and he was pissed. Like, you betcha. And you go out there and there's a bear dancing around, and Lick's like, "Gah!" And that bear is scared shitless. He was fully ready to kill the alpacas or goats or chickens, but he didn't want a piece of licky at all.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, Ben, just so you know, I have to mute you when Dani's talking. It goes feedback for some reason, so I'm not being mean here or anything like that.
That's why I mouthed. I'm sorry. I assumed that one of my animals made noise or anything. I mute myself a lot. I just got Cutis in my arm, and she keeps trying to dance in front of the camera because she's wherever my attention goes. Cutie's like, I want that.
Yeah, little prima donna. I love it. Cutest. Yeah, it brings me. I don't know what you guys think about this. I've learned to think about the masculine feminine archetype first as one, not two, and it similar, if not identical, to the predator and the prey in nature. Right, the predator being more of the masculine energy, the prey, and that's not to qualify and say men are evil and predatorial. That's a whole other kind of editorial going on there. But this predator energy is inherent, and the beautiful part is when a man has full control over their faculties, and I use that strongly and on purpose because people are offended by this whole notion that you could be in control. It's like, because we need to be in control is why I would say that. So I'm curious if you have any take on this before we go like headlong into the demangling or unmangling, is why would a predator animal, kill? And I heard an explanation. I'm curious what kill for the sake of killing. That say there's, a herd of sheep and nobody stops the predator, the bear, the wolf, the whatever. And they go and they kill everybody. They don't eat everybody. They might not eat anybody, but they will be on a killing frenzy. What happens there? What's going on?
Boy, that one's going to be hard to explain to a girl. I am not 100% sure, but if you've ever been in martial combat, like wrestling, see Dani and I, that's why and it doesn't bother me that Dani's a very masculine woman. I'm not threatened by it because I'm a man. And I understand weak men are going to be threatened by that, but I can understand that she understands this. Most women would not. If you've not done martial sports where literally you're in a life or death situation, because I promise, even in those prey situations, a wounded animal is the most dangerous animal. A deer will kill you. A grass-eating animal will hurt you bad because when it comes down to life or death, it's on. And to be in that fight and come out victorious, where you could have died, but you were the master of it and you took control of that, and I am the winner of that. That is an absolute just thrilling, intoxicating feeling. You feel all powerful, and it's amazing. And for somebody that's not a realized person, that can easily be a drug, which is what you're getting in those cases, that you need to feel over and over again without the understanding that, again, they're doing it in these instances where it's such a weak opponent that they're feeling a very cheap thrill, as opposed to understanding that being able to actually defeat a worthy opponent, that's the only thing that actually is worth your time. But that only comes with being a higher person. It doesn't come for some people taking candy from babies. That was good enough. You won.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I spent a couple of years practicing Hapkido, so I knew from our little matches there what that feels like. But I agree. I think it's a dopamine rush. I think it becomes an addiction, and it's the same as greed. Someone who has $100 billion who needs to destroy an entire country to get another 2 billion. It's just greed. It's this more dopamine thing. But I don't I recognize that all of us here, we understand that we all have masculine, feminine. So I've definitely seen women behaving as predators, going for the jugular, underhanded ways of engaging which is why it's just like on each of us as individuals to alchemize our own unique configurations of masculine, feminine, and being responsible with them.
Yep, very well said. So let's dive right in, because I'm a fan of solutions. Mara's asking, what are the solutions for helping those wounded, predatory, weak men? Go ahead, Dani.
I would say first and foremost to not call them weak, predatory, wounded, weak, predatory men, only because it's going to put them on the defensive, in the same way calling a woman a wounded, weak, predatory woman is going to put her on the defensive.
I know Mara well, and I bet she doesn't call anybody that, just for the sake of our language here. Yeah.
Of course. The word nerd in me just saw that. What I'm learning experientially is that what heals both the masculine and feminine is support for the masculine and feminine. So for me, it's approving of my male friends and colleagues and family, even if they're not behaving in ways that are ideal for me. It's consistently giving them my confidence and my approval. And I think that is so healing, especially for the masculine. Just not getting that constant pushback that, second, third, fourth wave feminism have dropped into the culture. Just if there's a space where men can be approved of and not hassled, I think there's more spaciousness and willingness to step into higher expressions of their masculinity.
Yeah, men have been attacked more than, it's very easy to attack a strong man, for example, and a weak man, I guess. And it's become a cultural habit. You can hear it in people's language. And I grew up with that, and I adopted all of that. And I'm repenting for that even to this minute. And I agree, a little bit of appreciation can go a super long way. Yeah.
So,
what do you think, Ben?
So I'm a bit on the opposite spectrum of it, but I'm a guy. So where I see most of this, at least Western culture's problems, the United States' problems came with men's suffrage. And what we're talking about with men's suffrage is at one point in time, these weak men were not allowed to vote. And by weak men, and here's the thing, our histories are so jumbled. They don't want to recall things like free land was to be had for any man that had the gumption and the know-how to go build a farm and go take it. There was nobody to buy the land from. They tried giving away land in certain areas, did giant giveaways. Just go throw your stake in the ground and it's yours. And the guys who actually had the understanding of how, for me, the epitome of man is the husband. And I don't mean this necessarily in the just husband and wife scenario. What I mean is husbandry in general. So a husband. And for me, this starts out when you're a young man, you get to a dog, for example. Now, as you're with this dog's going to have a lot of needs, but the dog can't express those needs to you very well. It doesn't speak English. It can't tell you things. So you're going to have to develop a very observant relationship with this dog in order to understand when it's not feeling well, when you're asking too much of it, when it's feeling uncomfortable. And the better job that you do at this husbandry, well, then when you start getting older and you start getting charge of greater things, then eventually it works up to you're the man of your own farm, and your husbandry shows that your farm has success. And now you are a man that's desirable and a good woman who wants to go in and give that home a heart and start filling it with love. That's going to be a highly desirable place. And guess what? The people of the town, they're also going to want to go to his leadership. Now, this is not being disparaging to the workers on the farm, but we need to understand one thing. Without that guy who built that system and put it all together and runs it, he's the whole ship. And you guys are just a piece, and you can't run a whole ship or don't want to. Neither of which, again, I'm disparaging. if you just want to be a dude that goes and does the job you're told for a few hours every day, and then go home to your hut and maybe hump out a couple more of you and have some supper, and that's all the aspiration you have, good for you. Have a happy life with it. If you're not capable of running things. But the success of your husbandry was what determined your place in the community. And when we started giving the guys who weren't well put together enough to run the system the ability to choose the system, which is democracy, people, when these idiots right now under democracy, the fucking yuts that lives down in Garberville, who literally the people of the town in our Facebook group will tell you to swerve around because he'll walk out into traffic, and sometimes he has like an axe. He'll be out there swinging an axe at oncoming traffic. But that guy, every 4 years, they go and give him a shower, clean him up, and take his ass down to the voting booth. And guess how much his vote is worth? The exact same as mine. The exact same as mine. And when we take away these weak men, which here's the thing, when you're going to be that leader, again, your husbandry is going to show. The guys who can actually take care of a farm and love the people and love and show respect to them, those guys should be elevated. These other guys, not. The problem that we really have in a world today is the discernment between a strong man, like most people, being scared of me, but I'm very competent and the things I do are beneficial for the people around me, as opposed to the people who are very self-serving and very destructive, who also have a strong masculine personality, but it's without the competence or the caring. And so that discernment is gone, because any strong masculine is all lumped into one thing as toxic and to be shushed. And so now the actual weak men, who, just like the Chihuahua situation where I was talking about the pit bulls, my scary big dog Tyr, who's loving and protective and an amazing dog to be around, he would be shunned, as opposed to this crazed little dog that's ready to attack everything because he's comfortable to be around. He's not a threat. It's now the threat level that is what's considered good or bad.
Yeah, really well said. I like that. I just had to look up husbandry because I'm familiar with animal husbandry, but it also does mean careful management or conservation of resources and economy, which is the man's domain in that living arena. So that's really good. I'd like to, I don't know if, Dani, you have anything you want to add to that before
I do. And I really appreciate your perspective, Ben. And I see it as a little more hierarchical, but it feels appropriately hierarchical. And this is a little step sideways. But like when I say that I'm approving of the men in my life, I'm not like giving it up. I'm not saying, let's make out. This is me as a friend, but it's something that I think is important, is women not rewarding the type of behavior from men that isn't honoring of themselves or women. And I think this is the crux of one of the cruxes of obviously a very tangled problem, but it's where I think third wave feminism did all of us a huge disservice, the whole ethical sluthood and indoctrinating women to be sluts and give it up and not honor our bodies and let any Tom, Dick, or Harry into us. And these women who are putting up with these polyamorous boy children and selling themselves down the river because we're lonely or we want touch or whatnot. And I think that's where we really need to take responsibility of not rewarding that behavior and calling men to step into their highest expression.
Boom. Yep, I like that a lot. Boy, that's a rude awakening. Growing up in that exact arena where it was all, the family traditional roles, all of that was completely denigrated. That was beneath any woman of value. We were on the heels of the free love movement. There was absolutely, morals were completely out the door. A lot of women got ruined in the process. I mean, men too, of course, but yeah, wow, what a psyop that is. That's a rude awakening.
But we have to acknowledge that it's different, that men are wired to spread their seed far and wide and women are not. So women trying to behave like men that way is not appropriate for us. And it's degrading the entire interplay between us.
And all this has done is give those weak men the opening they needed. Because before this, the only men that were attractive, historically, only 30 to 40% of men have passed on their seed, despite the fact that men all desire to pass on their seed. So where the difference is made up is you aren't getting the men like myself who treats my wife like a goddess. You don't get those dudes. You get the wormy ass dudes who want you to go have an abortion and go out and cheat on you and are abusive and don't pay the bills and want you to, and are standing behind you with his hands around you in your front pockets while you pay for food at the restaurant. That's the dudes you get. Because the strong dudes, the dudes that are willing to, like my wife doesn't work any job. Absolutely, she does all the housework, but she doesn't work a lick outside this home. Well, she does go out in the garden and do gardening stuff, but she enjoys doing the gardening stuff. Although I do like the harder part, like the hauling the dirt and things like that. But she does what she wants with her free time. She's not beholden like I am to all the outside nastiness. And this is how you this is the masculine and feminine. This is how you get the loving mother and allow her to become that nurturer who truly cares about things. Because women are the most adaptive of the two sexes by far. And what environment they're provided is absolutely what you're going to get. And these weak men aren't going to get any good loving mother, the one that brings you over your cocoa because you want a cocoa and serves you supper and takes care of you, and when you don't feel good just does nice things for you. Or when I go to drive somewhere and I look inside and there's little things hidden in the truck that I would have needed that are made my trip nicer. Like you don't get that. You don't get that shit because you don't provide what needs to be provided in order to receive that. And that's your own damn weakness, which isn't me saying that women today aren't awful, but from a man's perspective, and I actually don't get to talk about this very often because a lot of times it's in a competitive scenario that we're talking about masculine and feminine situations. But for me, actually, it's the masculine that broke first when we started elevating these weak men into the strong men positions, because we need equality amongst this thing. And again, I do agree with what Dani said. I absolutely believe in a caste system. Actually, I just don't believe in a static caste system. I believe in a mobile caste system, meaning that there's definitively, and this is just reality of the world, there's leaders. If a situation goes down and there's 20 people, give it 2 seconds, you'll find out who the leaders are. Mm-hmm. And some of those people are going to want to be leaders in order to take advantage of the situation. And some of those people are going to want to be leaders because they want to fix the situation. Now, you as the people who don't want to be the leaders, because really most of you don't, you might want to have your say-so in it, but you don't really want to take the responsibility or put in the effort to be the leader. So what your true job is to distinguish between the one who wants to be the leader for his personal gain or the one who wants to be the leader just to make the situation right. And that's where the world got lost, because both those guys still exist, but the world has lost the ability to discern between the two. And they're also fucking worried about getting their say in on it, that they don't, while again, not taking responsibility, which is all democracy really is, having your say, but not taking responsibility for it. So now you just get put in on a team, and now you have to accept the other bullshit that the team is doing, even if you don't like it. And that's what you get, because all you did was chuck a vote. You didn't do anything.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious, just to clarify first what Danny said about it being hierarchical. Is that the whole like alpha guys, beta guys, gamma guys, which for some reason I always glaze over and have failed to fully get that. There are certain labels, but I hear what you're saying, Ben, that not everybody pass their genes forward, which is interesting because that should have created a lot of good stock for that reason, right? It seems like the more worthy ones would end up passing on their genes. But is there a female equivalent at all in that? Yes. Yeah. I've never heard.
For
You ever
sure.
seen, if there's no rooster in the hen yard, watch, you will even look this up. There's fucking hens that will crow if there's not a rooster in the hen yard, in the hen yard.
Good point.
Not even kidding.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
Dani.
see. No problem. I mean, I see that among women myself, and I'm, to what you were saying, Benjamin, like I'm a natural leader and I never want to be. I do not want to be. And I have fought it my whole life and I've wrestled with it until I finally realized this is the role that was given to me. So I might as well just play it.
You people are all going to just keep fucking it up if I don't do it anyways. So
right.
Whatever.
Right. I was in a car once with a girlfriend. We were parked at the edge of a cliff and I watched her put the car in drive and start to move forward. And I thought, well, I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to be the overbearing, alpha chick that I've always been accused of being. So I'm just going to let her handle this. And she kept moving forward until I finally just said, stop. And then she could barely get out of the car. I could. We had to call a tow truck. Like, it could have been catastrophic. And it's exactly like you said, Ben, something goes down, you just watch in a couple seconds, the natural leaders will emerge. But right now, what we have in society, it's not the natural leaders who are seeking those positions. Natural leaders don't want to do that. I always thought we should do it by spiral dynamics, and it's only the people operating in second tier consciousness who should be steering our earthship. But those are the people who really want nothing to do with the insanity of humanity and the sham show.
Yeah, indeed. The best
100%.
the best kings don't want to be kings. They didn't choose that role. They don't go looking for it. They don't treat it to be a big badge on my vest or whatever. It's a heavy burden, actually. It's an intense burden. It's a massive responsibility. And I'm the same, Dani. Like, I can't hold my tongue. If there's a vacuum of leadership in a space, then I'm likely to step in. I'm also likely to not be in most spaces because of that exact thing.
Exactly.
Right? Where, I don't want to go in like a bull and take over the conversation or the direction of anything unless it's my thing to do. I'm going to talk about that a lot on my podcast tomorrow, by the way, called Belong. And so
living off grid, a lot of people are surprised when they find out I'm always opposed to joining like communes and things like that. And what they don't realize is like, as the guy who runs a farm, and I've tried it with people too, people just end up becoming like another one of my animals. Like, now I'm fully responsible for you. Most of them are not going to do anything to take care of themselves. They're not going to be a net positive for the farm. Most of those people that want into the communal lives want to do nothing, but want everything. And so absolutely will I not have a part of that, knowing that I'm still going to keep the farm running, even if you're not doing your part. Now I'm an on-rail cuss, so I'm not like one of these hippies, and I'm not going to put up with it. I'll just kick you the fuck off the farm and tell you kick rocks. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's everybody on my farm. Everybody puts into the garden, and especially if you want to eat out of the garden, straight out. But that's, and so it's hard to want to do that because, and then the thing is those people that you kick out, they're going to go around and tell everybody else what a horrible person you are and make up all kinds of stories about you. And you tell everybody you're just awful because you didn't let them use you. And these on a local level, that's what you get in these politicians. Like, if you're a good politician, all they're going to do is have a bunch of really needy people shitting on you. And so the only ones we get are like Dani said, the bad politicians. Even in my county, the county seats of this county are the worst politicians, some of the worst politicians I've ever imagined. I mean, I'm in California, so you got to imagine what we're dealing with. But do I want to go do those jobs? Fuck no.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. It's interesting because the guys got their names, the alphas, the betas, the gammas, and then women. There's no lingo or lexicon around the leadership that is, among women. It's very, what's the word? Is it covert, hidden, like
Totally.
sneaky?
Which I think is what makes the feminine shadow so terrifying to me, because women will pretend to be your best friend while stabbing you in the back. The masculine shadow is like, I hate you, I kill you, and you know what you're dealing with. But yeah, the feminine shadow is just so hidden and sneaky and manipulative, and yeah.
Yeah, all personaed up again, right? Like wearing the nice, I'm your best friend and I love you, and like, ooh, there goes the knife in your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a kind of strange phenomena. The competition among women for men is a really frightening thing as well, because we have a limited, maybe even in nature, there's a limited number of really suitable people to reproduce with, when you get right down to the core reason, or one of the major core reasons behind the masculine feminine is reproduction and continuation of the humanity. But this, the competition has been so brutal that it's made women put up with, like you said, the guy who has 4 or 5 women on the go at one time because they're getting chosen. And then there's nothing else to choose. I mean, the single women epidemic is growing rapidly, and that's really hard on society, because that's a bunch of people that don't, they're not taken care of. They're not strong in their community. They're not going to rise from there into any kind of leadership positions. So how do you demangle that?
Well, a good portion of the single woman epidemic is that it's a combination of a couple things. What Dani was talking about earlier with the women's free sex liberation movement. Well, the thing about dudes is, for women, there's supposed to be discernment for who they give sex to. What guys have discernment for is who they give resources to, not who they give sex to.
Yeah.
And so it's two different measuring sticks entirely. So women assume these girls that, I'm going to put this in the crass way because it's the only way to get around this real quick and straightforward. And it's going to sound shitty. I don't normally judge people like this, but a woman that's like a 2, she goes home from the bar. If a dude that's a 8 or a 9 at the end of a night's got nothing better to do, and you're willing to jump on it, okay. Tomorrow, if it's a 6, okay. If it comes time to give resources, you had better be a 8 or a 9, and somebody that's a purish woman that I'm proud to bring home in front of my mother, who also was my father picked as a pure woman, and she will be proud that I have this woman home. All them other girls, it's okay for me to give. Not myself personally, I'm not a stupid kid, but those guys see it as okay to give their penis to, but not their resources. So these girls then, because they were capable of getting slept with by this 8 or 9, now they believe that that's the level that they're on, because that is how they think. They think I sleep with people on my level. And so, because they wouldn't think about sleeping with somebody below their level. Women typically, that's one of the things that they do, is try to date above what they consider whatever the highest station man they can get. And so now they think that that's what they're capable of. They won't accept a dude on their level now, because in their mind, they're worth this dude that would just sleep with them. And that's all that this free love movement's done. It's really made things super weird in that position. So to equal the single woman epidemic, there's a single dude and they're very angry. They are angry. Epidemic also.
So there's so much there. I'm so happy that the three of us are having this conversation. It's so fun. I could talk about it forever. I did want to acknowledge, I think it was Christine's comment you just put up. I feel the same. Like, it takes so much masculine energy to move ourselves through the world. And it's so hard on women. I don't know any of us who love that. And it's gotten to the point where being in our capital F feminine is a luxury. It's like this rare luxury. Regarding what you were saying, Ben, I think a lot of that is also like the Disney princess programming, that we're all going to be rescued by Prince Charming, who looks like a 10 and makes $1 million. And then these women, a lot of times have very unrealistic ideas or can't deal with a single flaw. Like there's it's like, what's your deal breaker list? And I see this with my girlfriends. They're always looking for the red flags. And I'm like, how about you look for the green flags? How about you look for what's right, what's working? I also think we can't take porn out of the picture, because I know when all of us were young, dudes had to work really hard to see any of our pink parts. They had to take us out. They had to take us to dinner. They had to woo us. All of that went away with porn, where women are just objects to be penetrated, at the same time that you have the Tavistock psyop indoctrinating women to treat themselves like holes to be penetrated, walking around half naked. And this is where we're at.
I know. I had an epiphany about this the other night. And I grew up with a lot of adults that, now they weren't sickos, luckily, and they weren't abusers at that level, but porn was normal and it was everywhere and everybody had it. Everybody did it. I also, as a child, I'm, I could see the wallpaper in the private bathroom and it's all pornography. And, and then there's a stack of magazines in the uncle's bathroom. And then they wonder what's psychologically wrong with me when I'm looking at them. It's
right.
Right. But it's in the zeitgeist, and it's something going on. And can you imagine a bigger mindfuck for a girl child? What is going on?
For sure, because women's sexuality is so fetishized. So like bras, panties, like Playboy was such a big deal. So yeah, of course we're going to want to get in on it too. And then we're watching grown-up versions of ourselves just give their bodies away to millions of strangers like it's normal. I would really love us to bring sex back to the sacred and monogamous. What a concept.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Porn is what guys don't realize is how destructive it is for them, because it's a open conversation that it's very obviously destructive for women, obviously, and that's been discussed for many hours. And the problem that there's so many hidden problems for guys that don't get talked about, that the regular porn use is causing a lot of these guys, where especially guys that haven't had substantial interactions with women for starts. Like, if that's where you start out in life, and as Dani said, like, every kid's got a cell phone with open availability for it now, as opposed to you had to know somebody who stole something from under their dad's bed that was going to take a whooping for that shit later. Like, that's what you do is, especially with the variants that they have in porn, like from the way I understand it, they have almost more weird, sick porn than they do just normal porn at this point. And what it's doing is programming your brain with certain pleasure paths. And the thing is like, when I was young and we didn't have availability, all that, I honestly remember the first time I French kissed a girl, it took me like 2 weeks to figure out whether that was gross but not gross at the same time, how that was working out. Like, why did she stick her tongue in my mouth? Like, why did you do that? Why do I kind of want to do it again? I don't know. Like, that took 2 weeks to figure out, and there was a natural progression of things, where obviously your first probably time with, having sex was most likely missionary position, and it was very uncoordinated and disjointed, and it takes you a number of years to even get good at that part and figure it out before you start moving on. Where these kids now are, say you rub one out for 2 years to some dude pulling it out of some chick's rear end and slapping it into her face or something, and that's the thing that's getting you off over and over. Well, now you've developed a fetish, and that fetish has now got to be lived up to, or else any experience is going to be subpar because it doesn't live up to this fetish, as opposed to being 14 and the first time a girl sucks on your ear a little bit and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God. Like that, all those things are gone.
I know. It's basically like drug addiction, right? That's why everything had to ramp up, and it wasn't enough just men and women having sex. It had to be men and women, and God knows, the kitchen sink and the animals or the whatevers, and so and then children, and this god awful, because every single time you raise the volume on the dopamine, the pleasure, whatever it is, then you become that much more numb to it, right? So it's like, I totally appreciate what you just said, Ben. It's that's like the ultimate excitement, is where somebody just breathes in your direction and you're already like, getting all crazy about that. And that's the beauty. I did go out with one fellow who had a very severe porn addiction that was supposedly over, but it was absolutely like pointless. He was damaged, and there was no, is there coming back from it? I have to imagine yes. Or is it broken forever?
I mean, I think there are always solutions. I also dated someone with a very severe porn addiction, and I allowed it to take a horrible toll on my self-esteem. I think the only way to do it is to really, there are programs, the NoFap, and they really have to devote themselves, and then maybe some like sensate, focus exercises to get their sensitivity back. But the cards are stacked against everyone with the screens and the blue light and just the cultural push. Like, I see these girls walking down the street looking like they just got off Hollywood Boulevard at 3 a.m, and they're walking with their parents. And I'm like, how are you allowing this? Like, this is not a safe world. This is sexual signaling. Like, we all like to have these ideas, like, I can wear whatever I want because that's feminine empowerment. And it's like, well, it's also like base primal sexual signaling, and you are erroneously riling up the male sexual response. And it's not to say it's okay for men to lay hands, but you're playing with fire.
Yeah, really good to see that. I traveled in India so much, and so the men haven't been taught to repress anything there. They're forgive me, but they're like 10-year-old boys on the whole. They are. And so you have to take royal responsibility for where you're putting all that sexual energy. And, lo and behold, it gets responded to. And I was like shocked half the time. I'm like, oh, is my sex energy hanging out there? I better take it back. And because somebody's just pawing me for with no permission of any kind.
Yeah, you don't go broadcasting your bait and then be mad when all the fish around go nibbling at it.
Exactly.
You save that for the one you want. And that now you have to take responsibility for the discernment of that. So you get to choose, while these women acted like in today's feminist movement act like they didn't have choices in anything. No, you had a choice in husbands, and you got to choose whether you were in the same thing, even in the caste system that I talk about, like, because as an Odinist, we're a caste system, but there was also a pride to place. It was a caste system of free men, and there was a pride to placing yourself under the jurisdiction of a capable leader. If you were not that leader, there was still a pride to that. Like, it's okay that I'm not the general. If I'm one of the soldiers of General Sherman, like you see a good soldier. I was in the 101st Airborne And, we served under it, and they're very proud because they served with a capable man, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah, that's nature's way. I was also just going to quickly brag about my son who, there's the pendulum swing. So, he's coming from people that were in that weird era that we're talking about. And he went the entire other direction. He told me one day, he said, Mom, I'm not even going to date someone I don't want to marry. And I'm like, wow, I know. I was such a proud woman.
Mom.
Well, I honestly, I can't even take credit for that. He's developed incredibly good values. And then now he found a needle in the haystack, because the women in his generation are like, they have brain damage. There's problems. There's like all kinds of really even sicker, I think, than where we were coming from, because of the interplay with technology and all of that, and the ability to insta text and insta everybody this and that, and
not to even count that the girls who got on Hustler or on Playboy or whatever, so what? They got what, $10,000? Like, look at that little girl, like 2 weeks ago, it was all over the feeds that she was 18 for a matter of like 4 hours. And was already a millionaire because she did a OnlyFans thing. What does that do to girls? Like, they're getting told basically they don't even have to be a decent person, because they're going to be millionaires for the rest of their life if they just show their hoo-ha and enough guys want to see it.
Yeah.
It's true. The feedback loop coming from this sorely demented culture, it's a formidable challenge for us, wanting to bring the masculine feminine back into balance. And Ben, you said earlier it's was on the men for kind of dropping the ball on wanting to achieve and whatnot, and that very well may be true, but I also think it's important to recognize that we've all been social engineered into this distortion. This is deliberate. This wasn't organic. This has been going on for a really long time, which is why this conversation and all of our individual efforts are so important, because at this point, it is only an inside job. Society is not going to fix this for us.
Yep. Excellent point. It was engineered for us, and it's 100% our responsibility to unmangle it. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I only say that it's the men's responsibility because, like, alchemically speaking, and this is where a lot of confusion comes in. The material side is the masculine side. So like when the salt and the oil, or when the salt and the sulfur come together, that's both masculine. The masculine has to set the house, set the home, in order for the feminine life. The feminine is the life giver and the life taker. She's the one who brings the heart into the home. She's the spark. But in order for that spark to have a home, and as an alchemist, this is where spontaneous generation comes from. Literally look up spontaneous generation. If you make the right conditions and the conditions are good, that magic feminine will appear. The spark comes. So it's on to you, fellas, to first make the condition right, because you will not have a loving mother in your home until you make those conditions right for that to live.
So I'm in 100% agreement, Ben, and this is something that I spent a lot of time contemplating, unpacking. I write about it in my books, and I agree. It's on the masculine to create the safety and the foundation for the feminine to open up and come out. But in the same way that I became a communications coach because I sucked at communication, and I thought, well, if I can teach other people to do it, then maybe they can teach me. That's part of my perspective around giving men approval so that they can step into their masculine, so that then we can step into our feminine. It's like a little cheat code that I'm trying to figure out so that we can all, re-alchemize this together. But I agree. The men do have to do it first. And it sucks because men have gotten such a bad rap in this culture. It's been horrible since Me Too, kill all men and that nonsense. But even as a kid, my mom had the bumper sticker that said, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. How many little boys we're given that message. That's child abuse. So this has been going on for a really long time. And that's why I invite the women to have compassion for our brothers and fathers and sons and friends, and, give the gift of our compassion or approval to help heal this.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. Men need to feel needed. And also, one of the secret weapons, ladies, and I don't know why y'all forgot this, men love through their stomachs. Hey, man, if I've been out sweating my ass all day, like, let me tell you, we've got one of our best friends in the world is this older lady named Miss Georgia, and her husband had died, and she was a widow. And I went over to her house, and her generator was out, and there was a tree falling down. Because I went around checking on some of the older folks because we had a really bad blizzard, and making sure nobody was stranded. And it turned out she was. And I went out. Me and another buddy of mine went out and cleared that tree off of her garage and pulled it off. And we replaced the generator. And she came out with a loaf of banana bread for each of us, and we're fast friends ever since. Like, she sat in there making us some real nice banana bread with love, appreciating what we were doing. And we were out there being men, and now we're men that feel appreciated. I 100% love what Dani was saying, because feeling appreciated after you went out, and nothing like coming back and feeling like a man, and then you get some appreciation. Like,
That's beautiful. Yeah, one of the enemies of relationship, unfortunately, I know from experience, is a program that's called Never Enough or Not Enough. And you can point it at yourself, and I'm not enough, which is why I really hate those slogans that are like, you're enough, you're worthy, you're this. It's because it's the same damn program, just appealing to a higher side of it. And then the weaponization against other people. So when they do something, that it's never enough, right? Like that it is the saddest, most awful thing, because it just ends up being this moving target. I consider this to be a shadow of the hedonist archetype, which is, an important archetype and not inherently bad like the word sounds, but that's one of the really ill shadows of that. So yeah, it's craziness, madness. A lot of waking up. There's a lot of comments I've missed, but so what about this? They don't want healthy women. What do you guys think of that?
I do think there's a distortion, and like Gen X, we're Pluto in Libra, so that's been janky from the get-go. And I have seen, so it's weak men, it's men who have not stepped into their healthy masculinity that are afraid of healthy, weak women, which is okay. It's a one-room schoolhouse on this planet. It's on us women to say, great, then I'm going to put my energy elsewhere, instead of continuing to engage with men who can't handle us, who don't, who want an easier, simpler, more one-dimensional woman. That's fine. They can have that. But for us to really not compromise, to not compromise ourselves just because it would feel nice to be taken out to dinner or to be touched.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Let's see. People were talking about how men can say sleep with women or choose women below their level, but it doesn't work well the other way around. I know I tried that too.
How are we defining level? I am curious about that. What it's saying, and that's status and attractiveness. What a combination of such things, because obviously sometimes somebody has more of a social status, but they aren't maybe not as physically attractive. So you obviously, you step into a room, if there's 10 girls, you understand whether she's highly desirable for whatever combination of reasons or not. And then that's what we're talking about. And what that says about men is that men, and I'm not saying that this is a higher man or a realized man, but men do have a natural desire to just spread seed. And that's not something that they're supposed to, or that they naturally use as a measuring stick of worth. Is where they put their penis. That's not a measuring stick of somebody's worth. like I explained, what it is where you will put your resources. And part of the reason for that is where I would put my resources. If it's a good, loving mother character or figure archetype, we're gonna build together, because everything I'm trying to build, she's gonna be about making better, and also being about building it. Where typically your lower quality woman, your more free love woman, they're a lot of times going to be on the more destroyer archetype type thing, and they're just going to take and they're going to flush everything down the tubes that you have, along with what they have, and move on to the next, and then move on to the next person. It's so we choose according to where to put our resources. Where women are typically, the man is kind of the resource. So, and not meaning this in a derogatory way on either side, but the man, when you're looking at this in a traditional sense, the man is the resource. If you go and marry a dude that's living in an apartment and drives a Pinto, that's what you got. It's living in an apartment and driving a Pinto, because you're the woman. If you choose the guy in the castle that has servants, that's what you get. The guy in the castle with having servants. So the guy kind of is the resource. So you just got there's not really a negative connotation to be had on either side of this. You just have to look at it for what it is.
Yeah, I think everything you're saying resonates. And I think, depending on what our core values are, like for me, I'm going to value like an original thinker or someone with a sense of humor over six-pack abs. That's my own personal objective choice. But I did see a comment about, well, then the men aren't willing to take responsibility for the spawn of those lesser quality women. But that goes back to women. And this is the narrative that infuriates me, that we're stupid moron infants who cannot take responsibility for ourselves. So if I choose to let a lower quality, lower status man impregnate me and he doesn't want to show up for it, that's on me for making that choice. And I cannot stand the current narrative that allows women to take zero responsibility and just sit in a victim position while all men are predators with control of us. And the women not recognizing that narrative is more disempowering than the interplay between the sexes case by case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I want to answer also the question about levels, because that can be a difficult one and might mean different things for different women who have different values, right? So that's obvious as well. But this is a good, and Michelle, who's in the chat, introduced me to home math. He goes now by psychomath. He used to be like exclusively the men and women and dating and all of that kind of thing. He's incredibly wise, but bitter and young, and he could use a slap but from Benjamin, actually. But his take on levels is very good. And it comes down to basically, can you include others in your awareness? Can you include others' patterns of thinking, feeling, needing, and living in the world in your awareness? Can you account for that? A simple example of someone walks into your home, maybe you're a non-smoker, they're a smoker, and you say, "Oh, do you mind not smoking here?" And they say, "Oh, there's no problem. You're not my teacher or my mother. So what's wrong with you? There's no problem here. I'll just keep on smoking." They literally cannot even imagine that other person prefers not to be around smoke, right? And that's a level of evolution. And you can see it where the vast majority of human beings have not made it past, the ability to have empathy. I look again, I'm going to praise my son. He is more evolved on that level of being able to empathize and even consider someone else's experience than the vast majority of people out there that got stunted by what? I'm not sure. So yeah, and then being able to not only consider somebody else's thoughts, but consider thought itself and to reflect, and who's the thinker. And these are all different, places that we might shimmer between.
So this is what I was speaking to, Beth, when I mentioned spiral dynamics and second tier consciousness, because we all come by our levels of consciousness honestly. Maybe this is my 1,000th lifetime. Maybe this is my second lifetime, so it's like, we're not going to shame a kindergartner for not being fluent in algebra. They're just not there yet. But that's where it's on us to be responsible. Like, is just like your son, he's not going to have a girlfriend. He's not going to consider marrying. I would encourage all women, because we do get pregnant, to have that top of mind when you're letting someone enter your body, because that is on us. That's where we have the power, and to really be mindful of who we're allowing inside of ourselves.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And I want to say that this is part of what I was talking about with husbandry in my example with the dog, which I'm not saying women are dogs. I'm saying that observational relationship that you have to have with something that doesn't even talk. That's something, and with your farm, the way you take care of your farm, all of these things are what are going to lead you to be a higher person when you become an adult, when you look for a wife, when you start having business relationships. That's those same features are going to carry over, that you're noticing that, oh, hey, maybe if my friend isn't even say that they don't want me smoking, but they don't smoke and I don't think anything of it. And so I just start smoking, but then I notice that they're pretty uncomfortable and they're not acting, they got kind of stiff when I lit the cigarette, and they're kind of, doing like, you're like, oh shit, this probably isn't okay. And you go ahead and all of these features come from them first steps of husbandry, where you truly care about this thing you have this symbiotic relationship with, and you start learning how to have unspoken empathy, and realizing these unspoken signals and things that make you want to create a world that's better for it.
Exactly. To be able to notice that someone else is suffering. This again is not a given. It's not 100% by any means that people can do that. And it's just basic empathy, basic compassion, and a whole lot more. So yeah,
I agree with what Christine Moss said up higher, and I do agree with the looks part. But men don't care about women with money for the most part. That's really a super weak ass man. Yeah, I do 100% agree with that, and it does, and that's 100%. These weak ass men choose these oversexed, self-centered, weak women because that's who they deserve. They aren't a better person than that. I would not put up with an oversexed, self-centered woman, because what I provide for my wife is worth much more than that. But I don't agree with this women with a lot of money. Even in today's world, that's a tiny portion. This is part of why a lot of these hyper-educated women are having a problem, because in their mind, they have risen, and they have on a social status. So they've risen to make themselves something that's an achievement on a social status. But the problem with that is that's a very masculine thing. And even in today's world, when a man goes to settle down, he doesn't want a masculine woman. He doesn't want to compete. He doesn't want another stag in the bed. He wants something else. So actually, women with high resources, actually for most men, and this is part of what's leading to the women's singleness epidemic, is so many women and I will say, because there's too many weak women, because they're the more adaptable, they'll fill that fucking space. They'll fill that space. I even and I know Danny's, at least I think, friends with Cheney. Cheney will say the reason that there's so many lesbians is because there's so many weak ass men. Half these women, if a strong dude came into the room, their lesbianism gets real questionable real quick. And it's just because they're adaptable creatures. And they need to be to survive. Dudes don't need to be as an adaptable. I'm hard-nosed as shit and everything's my way, but on my farm that works because I can make that happen by force of will. That's the way dudes operate.
Yeah. I wanted some sympathy for something I saw yesterday, and I can't get it out of my eyes. We have transit buses. You must have this where you guys are seeing this, where they advertise on them. And this is the first time I saw the entire bus. Maybe it's not the first time it's been, but it was painted with a pride ad. It was literally, I walked away going, yeah, they're promoting butt sex and scissoring. Great. They just spent my public money to push this out. And why do you need to advertise it? What do you need to advertise? It's what people don't want. They're forgetting to want it. And so you have to remind them by paying to do that.
Well, it's the ideology. Like, the ideology is so important for, the lizards, the predators right now. So they have to shove it down our throat 24/7. But I'm curious, Beth, were you as pissed off, a decade ago when it was Calvin Klein models in their skivvies on the bus?
Yeah. Especially when I had a child, and then you come up, to a store, and there's the boobs are like, bigger than 27 heads.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm like, is this bothering you? And he's like, nah, whatever. He rolled with everything. But
I do agree with Beth. I'm from the Midwest. We're dramatic people. We don't the public display of affection. I love my wife madly, but we don't even maybe once in a blue moon we'll hold hands out in public. It's just not a public thing. Private, whole nother story, but that's our private.
Yeah.
I just think this conversation can't be separated from the demoralization that ideological subversion rests on, and just recognizing that the only reason they're advertising anything, whether it's being gay, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's oatmeal, is to control us and to divide us. They're never going to emblazon images that uplift us and allow us to thrive and be our best and, get along harmoniously.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't wait till I grew up and I had enough money to be able to buy this stupid billboard and put, some inspiring, uplifting, life-supporting, encouraging messages on it. I don't know if I would ever actually do that. I might. I live across the street. Maybe I should buy that billboard across the street, because I have to look at it all day. Put some art on there or something.
That's a great idea. That's a great way for us to take culture into our own hands. Invest in these giant advertising media and put out wonderful messages. I love that.
Yeah, why not? So yeah, Emile said only a certain type of guy looks for money in a woman, and they're not exactly men full of self-respect. Yeah, while I'm busy exposing myself, I managed to get like the most substantial relationship I had that resulted in my child. It was with a man who was terrified of being taken advantage of by a woman financially. So they had all the friends that had the divorce, and the woman walked away with this and that. And then, and then I heard a lot of these stories. There was a lot of these. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to just pay my way. I'm going to always ante up. And in a way, it was actually a mistake. I'd be curious what you guys think of that.
Yeah, I succumbed to that psyop myself, and grew up in a household with a very strong mother. And it was like, don't let anyone pay for you, because then you're going to owe them, and, carve your own path, take care of yourself. And so my adult life has been a deprogramming, a consciously learning how to be in my feminine, and yeah, just to learn to receive. And it's completely backwards. Like, you would think that I would have been brought up with that programming, but because of the second wave feminism psyop, it went the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And that beholden part was big too, because I did notice that I made the mistake. Some guy who's pretending to be my friend, and when I'm sick with cancer, he's like, oh, you should come to BC so that you can get some better weather out here. And I'm like, oh man, wow, generous guy. I'm so naive. I have no idea. He's just trying to get with me. So he brings me out, and then he treats it like an obligation. It's like, no, I paid your airfare. And I'm like, I'm out of here. There's not going to happen, so there can be reality on both sides. Yeah. Oh, Ben, we can't hear you, darn. And you are unmuted.
Maybe something on your computer.
Is that better?
Now we got you back again.
Once again, in this social contract, men are what men value in the social contract is resources. Man gave you resources. In his mind, Now the exchange in this is sex. That's what women hold the key to sex. Men hold the key to resources. And he said, here's your half. You didn't agree to that because you were just not understanding that that's the way that contract works. And so, you know, good and for bad, that's the way it works. So what it is men need to be discerning with their resources. So I only spend my resources on a quality woman that's going to give me a good return. And women only spend their resource of sexuality and then loving motherness to somebody who's a good resource, and they get a good return, somebody that's going to provide them a good life. And until we recognize this exchange and just let it be, like, God dang, why do we have to judge reality like it's a horrible thing? Like, oh, I hate reality. Like, this is just how it is. And when we can start teaching our kids that, the boys will quit wanting to put their dicks in every girl, because guess what, buddy? You don't want to give resources to every girl, do you? No. So you best pick the right one. And the girls will quit having sex with all the dudes, because guess what? That's a same situation reversed. You don't want to use up your resources on somebody that's not worth the time. What are you doing that for?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about that exchange. Say there's many levels between the masculine and the feminine, the basic polarity, right? So Ben, you and I have talked about this, but I'm sure we can come to some new levels here. And then this nature of exchange, is that just reality? Is that just nature?
Yes.
Okay. Or I'll throw this in the mix. Or is there potentially, maybe not in our reality or our experience, or maybe in our lifetime or anybody's lifetime, but is there the potential for an unconditional, being together that could be potentially based on, that fair exchange was established? Say, I'll use the example, much more benign, of working with clients. And I ask them to pay in advance. And then what happens once they do that? I become unconditionally available to them with boundaries, but then I want to give my all. The exchange has been fully honorable, and then I'm going to give them everything, every advantage that I could. So
but that exchange is still transactional because it's unconditional, because you have been paid, which allows you to show up fully. And I agree. I agree with Ben. Transaction is just the name of the game, because when I'm with a man, I'm craving masculinity. I'm craving masculinity so I can be more in my feminine, so I could lean into the qualities he has that I don't. And I think in a realm of polarity constructs, that's always how it's going to be. But I also wanted to speak to what Ben said before your question, Beth. I'm so in agreement with, like, this is how it is. This is not a fair realm. Men are stronger and can do more, and women cannot. And that is just how it is. And I agree that all we can do is educate our young ones. And what annoys me is trying to whitewash culture and sanitize culture, sanitize the interplay between the sexes, which will never happen. And then we're losing out on the opportunity to teach our young people the skills that they need to make the interplay between the sexes work for them. And for me, it comes down to communication. So, like, in the example that you shared, Beth, with the man who flew you out to BC, my question would have been, are there expectations? Like, how are you envisioning this going? And for me, it's always about more communication. If I go to dinner with a man and he wants to invite me into his house at midnight, I need to ask, are you expecting this to be physical? Like, what are you envisioning here? And I think, again, that's on us as women to have our own backs and ask these questions and clarify. There's so much muddiness in the way that we engage. And part of that can be sexy and is part of the turn on. But if we're not going to keep ourselves safe, who will?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it is muddy and murky waters because no one really knows what's going to happen. Right. And you don't even necessarily haven't met somebody in person. So you have no idea if that's what you're expecting or not. And I think that's a place where a lot of people hang out when it comes to relationships and decisions and responsibility and communication is just keeping the options open. So having no clear intention, no, honorable intentions, for example, that I'm not going to date you unless I want to marry you. And, so that's a very big hat to throw over the fence for where we've come from. And, typically, is it true that men are more adverse to commitment than women are? Is it about the resources because they're going to have to dedicate that? Or do you think that's just one of the many lies?
So it's honestly, it just needs to be further understood. Men are more truculent to offer resources, but part of that is because men are more loyal to continue. So where a man is going to be less likely to commit, he's also going to be less likely to break the relationship also. And 80% of women are the ones who file for divorce. Men will not do that. They will keep providing and they will keep doing their thing because that's what guys do. So we need to be more careful about who we give that to. And so it just kind of, it is somewhat true that they're less likely to become involved. But part of the gearing of that is women are a lot less loyal than men. And I'm not saying that derogatorily. Again, this is women are more adaptable, and loyalty does not come with adaptability. The two things are kind of, you've chosen your place when you do loyalty. You don't get to be a free moving chameleon anymore. You've chosen a hard spot. And this is what dudes do, is choose hard spots. Like even on a simple level, one of the biggest fights that happened in my house, because we don't really have fights in my house. My wife and I have a very good relationship. So that it devolves into petty things, little personal bullshits. And I'm a guy. I put things in a certain spot and I remember where I put it and it's there. Well, Christy likes to move things constantly. Women will rearrange their house fucking 12 times a year for no fucking reason. As a guy, from a guy's perspective, you're like, why did you do this? You expended a bunch of energy. Now I'm going to expend a bunch of energy rememorizing where everything is, like, only for you to do this again by the time I get everything memorized. Why did you do that? There was nothing wrong with the way it was before. What the fuck? And this is just what women do. It's just what it is. And like I said, in my house, that's the little petty bickering that happens. She moves something and then I grump about it. And she's like, it's 6 inches away.
Yeah, it's so funny. It was one of the beefs that I had with my ex. Like, to this day, his living room has the exact same alignment as the 17 plus years ago, 25 years ago that I met him, actually, more like. And then, yeah, I can't, if I get into a real funk, I'm gonna have to change the furniture, even if it's not better, a better arrangement, which there's only so many permutations and combinations in a small space that you can make. So yeah, a couple of things here. Genevieve said it cannot be unconditional unless the actual generating of safety is in place. Kind of back to what Ben was talking about, creating that container for the feminine to express safety first, and men who understand that actually embody it to the point it shows in the aura, and this field is safe. Yeah. And safety has been really weaponized against us. I almost had to take that word out of my vocabulary because it's never anybody else's responsibility to make me safe. I mean, physical safety can be a side, right? That say if it comes down to sheer brawn and sheer strength, and the man has the capacity and the woman doesn't, then yeah, I think there's a decent expectation or natural thing that would happen there. But I remember I got into one serious relationship and I was downtown with my son and I'm like, where is that guy? He should be protecting us right now because it's getting late and this is getting a little sketchy downtown. And then I shook my head and I went, you know what? We were like, before he came along, we were responsible. And now when he came along, we're still responsible. And I shouldn't have this kid in a sketchy area at a weird time of the evening and then think that it's the guy's problem for not keeping us safe. So I just like that's just wrong, right? So Mars said, I teach my boys they can protect anyone at any time. They're 11 and 13. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Another thing about my son, incredibly protective. He had that nature that he would just go into like killing frenzy if need be, and if anybody. I support that. I some women might try to talk their men children, young adults out of that. And I'm like, no, that's perfect. Good. Bring it on. Yeah.
Absolute worst thing you could curtail in a man.
Right.
Just worst thing you could curtail. All you're doing is taking all that's good in him and telling him that it's bad.
Yeah, it's
and
a castration.
Fuck it. Absolute castration.
Yeah.
And I agree, the feminizing hormones and everything, and even just hormone disruptors, period. Horrifying what's happened to the world. It's the things that the birth control pills and what those do to women. The fact that even just underarm deodorant and the way everybody's body's horribly toxified, they can't handle any natural smell whatsoever. Like at my house, we don't have underarm deodorant. We don't have any toxic items, and we don't wear perfumes or any of that. And when I go into town, anybody that's ever watched 13th Warrior, there's a part where all the Viking guys are standing there, and all of a sudden they hear an intruder coming, and they all get ready to fight. And one of the guys tilts his head up and goes, "Perfume," and everybody just kind of relaxes, like, "Oh." that is how I feel when I go into town. It's like everything's like, "Oh, you all smell so bad."
I know it. Yeah, perfume actually smells like poop to me. I'm pretty sure they put poop in there. And
whale puke in the most expensive perfume.
Whale puke, right?
Yeah.
That is what my biggest beef, honestly, about normal society and culture. Just you can't get away from it. We were going to take a trip with my son and his friend who wears cologne, and I couldn't get past it. I'm like, I don't think so. Oh, we'll just tell him not to wear it. He won't get it. He won't understand that his clothes are completely saturated in that stuff. And even if he had brand new clothes, they're going to wash them in some detergent that's just as bad. He's going to go to the bathroom and put that crappy soap on his hand, and that's going to smell forever. And then the shampoo and the air freshener and so yeah, this is my only one complaint about the new girlfriend, and I'm working slowly, trying to say like it's an anti-fertility a scam that they've got, and she's like, oh really? I was so glad to see she had like some openness to hear that, but it won't change. I know, like you'd have to change every facet. I'd have to go in their home with a gun. Like,
have you ever seen the information where they talk about the birth control pill? And because the birth control pill simulates you being pregnant, when women are pregnant, they give off a specific hormone they want calm and loving around. Where when it comes time when they ovulate, typically they want the strong man. And so there's this kind of shift back and forth. Well, when you take the pill, you always then are more attracted to the more femmy guys, because that's what you want is that community, because you need to be safe because you're pregnant. So you need that community and safety and quiet, where when you aren't pregnant and you're ovulating, you would want that aggressive male. Well, because you've taken away that time, and that time actually happens while you're on your period now you always want this very feminized man, and basically you want a girlfriend rather than somebody you would naturally seek to procreate with during your ovulation times.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, the infertility psyop is very far and wide, and birth control is just the beginning of it. That's something I do appreciate with Garrett Smith. He's very, very on that subject, and has a series of, I think, 6 different live streams on all of those infertility psyops that are it's that messed a lot of people up. They might be messed up forever for having been on birth control pills, literally. And there aren't good options. Right down to the mechanics of like, is there such thing? I still have to look this up. Is there such thing as a non-latex condom? Right? Like, What do you think?
I mean, the good option is having self-control and self-accountability and going back into a not free sex society, because the free sex society we've figured out doesn't work out well. That really there's always always going to be problems. And we tried to sidestep accountability and we just made it worse. And so we go back to just understanding accountability, going, hey, I can't poke just any of these girls or else I end up with a kid I have to pay for. That, well, now I'm going to have to be choosy about it. Or I can't let just any of these guys sleep with me because I might punch out a kid with some loser and I don't want to do that. So we start having accountability again for these things.
There's also accountability for knowing our cycles and tracking our cycles and knowing our body. And if there's an oopsie, which happens, dealing with it with Mother Nature instead of expecting, daddy Western medicine to take care of our problems for us. So I think if we're in sync with our bodies, with our cycles and nature, it doesn't have to be a problem. I think it's outsourcing our responsibility for our bodies onto, the sham show. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fallible. That's the only problem, is that those systems can fall through. And so, you want to be in a situation where if the accident happened, that it would be okay and it's with the right person and it's at the right time ish.
Yes.
So, that goes back.
And understanding it's not an accident. Like, you were trying to sidestep the natural process and the natural process said, nah, not today, son. This is how it works. And so it wasn't even an accident, because you definitely purposely had sex, and the accountability for sex is you might have a child. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
My take on this is super unpopular within the communities that we share. I recognize the issues with abortion, Planned Parenthood. I think that the way that women utilize abortion as birth control is a problem. I think it's too easy to evacuate one's womb without really connecting to what's going on. But I also believe if a woman does not want to be a mother and an oopsie happens, she doesn't have to. It's a very personal decision that I think is really between the woman, the man, God, and that child. But Mother Nature gave us herbal abortifacients. Mingling on my words today, but it's like they're here for a reason. And it's not to say there's not karma and it doesn't suck, because it's a no-win situation. But I'm not on board with the idea that if a woman gets knocked up, that's what she has to do. That's just not our world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's highly nuanced and it's very, very individual. You could never just take your opinion and have that work in somebody else's life on those kind of, like you said, between the man, the woman, the child, and God, and then everybody else. You have no right to have any opinion.
Exactly.
See, and as a heathen, I'm very much into we don't make a lot of real hard laws. I'd never make a law against this kind of thing. I would make a law against abortion. But also, as a heathen, I would socially shame that person for everything I was worth, and never would I date her or let my son date her.
Well, let me ask you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Let's say a woman finds out she's pregnant after dropping acid 4 times at a concert, and she doesn't feel ready to be a mother, so she's abusing her body. She's not putting positivity into this growing being that she will ultimately neglect. Do you still think it's best for her to take that child to term and be its mother?
And I muted Ben, so I will unmute him.
I didn't actually put forth opinion on whether that was a good or bad thing. I mostly said I wouldn't make a judgment nor a law on that, but what I would make a judgment on is this person who everything you described is not somebody I would want my son to date, nor would I date, nor do I think that they should be upheld as something to be imitated in the community. And so without giving them actual hardcore repercussions that take away their personal freedoms, I would at the same time say, obviously we don't want a community full of these people, so we're going to go ahead and make it known that this is not something that's acceptable in the community. If that's something you choose to do, you go ahead and choose to do that. I'm not going to stop you. It's your body. It's your freedom. I 100% agree, but nothing that you said would make me want to have my son date this girl either.
Oh, no, of course. Maybe I misunderstood you. So please clarify. I thought you were saying if someone in the community had an abortion, you thought she should be publicly shamed, but maybe I got that wrong.
Oh, for sure. She should be publicly shamed. Like this girl who went out and did a bunch of drugs, got herself pregnant, then had to go and delete her child. She should definitely be, and by shaming, I don't mean like she should be walked down the, like on Game of Thrones, shame, while she's naked and people throwing fruit at her. But it should be generally known that she's a less than desirable person. Anybody associating with her should be like, you really want to hang out with that? Now, she might be able to grow out of that, and she would if she proved herself to be a different person. But that person in a society, if you were trying to hold together a small town, you wouldn't want that person to be glorified. You wouldn't want everybody else in town to mimic those actions. But also, I don't think those actions are something so stiff as to where you should punish a person for doing that. Like, I wouldn't make laws or punish them for it, but so there needs to be a gray area where you recognize that there are some things people do that generally we probably shouldn't do as a society. Is it fall in the realm of their free will? Yes. But do we want a bunch of people doing it? If everybody does it, well, then all the girls in town just turn into what we have today, where they're all just doing drugs, all sexually liberated. There's no marriages. Most families are broken families. Like, we can't allow that stuff to be glorified.
What do you think about divorce? Should divorce be legal and glorified?
I think that no fault divorce should be made illegal, but divorce in and of itself absolutely needs to be a component of society. 100%.
But then we're fostering a society of liars who make pledges that they break.
Well, the thing is whether we want that to be the case or not, that is going to be the case. So there's sometimes you're going to enter into a marriage. So in heathen society, there's a list. Like, let's say I am supposed to be Christy's provider, and Christy's being a good wife to me and doing what she does, but we lose our home, we lose our farm, I don't get another home, I don't take all those things. She's doing her job, I'm not doing mine. There needs to be a remedy that's available, or let's say that I'm an abusive person. Obviously, she shouldn't have to put up with that. Now, does that mean that, again, with no fault divorce, where you can say, oh, I didn't feel it anymore, I needed to see what else? Well, now that's some horse shit too. I think no fault divorce should be made illegal, but fault divorce should 100% be legal.
What were your vows to one another? What was your pledge in front of your community and your family and all that is? What did you promise?
I did promise to provide for her and take care of her. I actually married us and we wrote our own vows. So mine included doing the things that a man is pledged to do for the wife, and I do not fail in my duties.
Okay. I know a lot of people do the for better or for worse, but both Beth and I have traveled extensively through India. There is no divorce there. They have to work it out. I think in the grand scheme, I'm not really down for public shaming in general, but as far as a girl getting herself accidentally knocked up or fostering a paradigm of liars who make empty vows that mean nothing, to me, that seems, I don't want to say more dangerous, but it's certainly not helping society how easy it is for people to get out of their fake lying vows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in India, I just wanted to quickly point out that they were locked in there unless they said the family. It's usually the father's, the man's family, so the woman's in-law. Unless they set fire to her, that's how they got divorced. They'd have a kitchen fire.
And when I was in India, I spent a lot of time talking to the elders in arranged marriages because I was so fascinated by it. And it's like, we have to figure out a way to make it work because there is no alternative. So it does work. And I think it speaks to our disposable culture where we just throw everyone away and give no thought to these vows. The vows are usually empty. And I'm not talking about you, Benjamin. I'm sure that you and Christy took them more seriously. You wrote them yourselves. But here it's just about the dress and your color scheme, and the promises are irrelevant. And then because no one is being shamed for getting divorced, and it's so easy, and we have a Hegelian dialectic, the marriage industry props up the divorce industry. No wonder there's no moral compass to our culture.
Yep. And that's where it comes back to.
I'm sorry.
I'll just quickly say it. That's where it possibly comes back to: don't have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Until you've actually gone to that nth degree where you've decided to share your life. The man's decided to be responsible. The woman's decided to do the best to bring life into fruition. And, that is like, it's kind of sounding right.
So part of this problem is because where marriage originated, it was a very religious culture. And we are absolutely a materialist culture. We're not religious in any way, shape, or form. So when I was writing my marriage vows, I wrote down what the duties are as a husband. What are my things that I'm going to provide for you, and that's my promises to you. And when I did that, I invited Odin to come oversee this because Odin is above me. And as I'm making these vows to you, I am doing it in the sight of my God, and my God overseeing that. And so all of my honor and everything that I am gets bound to this underneath the thing that I am underneath. And so but if you don't have anything underneath you but money, and money will buy you anything in today's world. You can be any kind of a complete piece of shit, and if you've got enough money, it's okay. Then what are you really vowing yourself under? That's I think the problem, where it's so easy to break these, because where is your respect for something above you besides the almighty dollar?
Boom. Right. That's spoken like the king, right? The benevolent king, who only is kept in check. Their power is only kept in check by the source of power. And if they don't have that, and they don't have that in their consciousness, and they don't serve that as a servant does, the servant king, then they're the tyrant. Then they end up the maniac.
Yeah. I just read Stephen Jenkinson's new book, Matrimony. And it's very specifically about the ceremony of matrimony. And in his perspective, the community who's bearing witness to this union has a responsibility to serve the endurance of the union and to hold those people accountable, and what a communal event it is. And I thought that was a great perspective on it.
Right. Like the original function and purpose of marriage was to bring communities together for strategic alliance. We've completely lost sight of that. Now it's this fairy tale between the man and the woman. And is it the perfect match? And is it that everything? You want it to be a good match, but this fairy tale has really harmed us. And yeah, we've lost sight that it is about the greater community, and the community has as much responsibility for the couple as the couple does beholden to the community. So, yep.
But I would hope, and I don't see this happening, Ben, but I would hope if there was a scenario wherein you lost the farm and you were down and out, that the bond between you guys is so close that she would help you see where you went astray, right? And help get you back to where you can get those things. Like, I think that's what true partnership is, not some fair weather version.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I would say, and my response to that would be why? Did I lose everything through a series of, let's say, when I was younger, my dad had a farm and we lost the farm because of a series of bad turns in the market. My dad had invested heavily in sheep because the Army was supposed to sign these giant wool and mutton contracts. And so he invested heavily in sheep. Well, then the Army turned out on these contracts. I don't remember what they did, but the contracts never went through. The sheep prices bottomed out, and through no great failing of his, the farm went under. In that scenario, sure, stay by your man. He's gonna keep working and keep grinding and keep trying to do what he said he was gonna do. Failure is okay. It's the end result that's the real story of the thing. Because if you failed today but you don't fail tomorrow, you're not a failure. So you just keep grinding. Now, if the reason that he lost the farm is because he became a raging alcoholic that nobody could stop and did things like that, and was a failure of a husband that refused to change his ways, why should she shackle herself to that for the rest of her time when he refuses to be a repentant person in any way, shape, or form? So I think that it comes with a flavor of what's happening, and that would have been taken into account, because, like, if you read Tacitus's Germania, divorce was almost unheard of in the Germanic society, almost unheard of. But it was an option, which meant that keep your shit together or your wife can leave you, boys. Don't start acting like a cunt.
But also for the woman, don't, like, if all of a sudden it's not like I wake up and all of a sudden my husband's a raging alcoholic. Like, there had to be a process to which I was complicit, bearing witness, something, so it's like taking the partnership seriously in supporting one another the whole way. But again, going back to, and obviously we're not talking about you, Ben, because this wouldn't happen. But if a woman tethers herself to someone who later becomes a raging alcoholic, that was her choice. She's the one who promised her forevers to this man who she chose. And it would be great if we could start taking responsibility.
Yep. Wow. Oh, Ben, sorry, you're muted. I'm going to unmute you.
I don't disagree with that. I 100%, like I said, it was almost unheard of in Germanic society. I 100% agree with what you're saying. But I also think you can't close the door, because there are people that go through things that leave them horribly horribly changed. That's just life. Say somebody comes back, goes to war and comes back, and they're broken as a person. That's not her fault, not your fault. It's a sad situation, but it is what it is. And so I think at least the same reason I wouldn't make abortion illegal. I'm not stating that there's not situations in life that are really fucked up and that we need to criminalize people for something. But at the same time, I don't think it should be considered socially acceptable. I think that divorce should be almost unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. What a big subject. I'm wondering if it's not too
Topher?
What's that? Topher. Yeah. Topher. Yeah, super good. Super good. He gave a fantastic talk about sexuality in the House of Free Will, by the way. So kind of a good adjunct to this conversation.
I bet he did. Topher is very masculine.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Definitely. Really, really helpful. And I'm wondering, it's starting to come down to the end of the time that I had planned out. And, is it possible to end with, like, what are the top solutions that maybe we have talked about that could just be highlighted at the end, or, ways that possibly we could bring this. Maybe it's happening already. There might be, again, where you've got that strong pendulum in the wrong direction. You get the strong pendulum in a much more, life supportive, normal kind of direction, or good direction. Anything you guys want to share around that?
I mean, I'm just going to be a broken record at this point, because I think it's an inside job for getting to know our masculine, getting to know our feminine, learning right use and alchemizing of each, recognizing in different situations, oh, I'm hanging out with this friend today. it's wise for me to exert more masculine energy, less masculine energy, for us to have that inner knowingness. Communication is key, especially as women, clarifying what are the unspoken agreements that I'm stepping into here. If I take this trip with you, if I go to your house, like using our voices. And I also would encourage us to train our lens of perception to what we appreciate about the other sex, and to recognize that and feed it with our acknowledgement and appreciation. Sweetheart, I love it when you cook for me. That makes me feel so good, and like looking for what we like and what's working, because this culture is trying to entrain us to look at all the reasons why we don't get along. There's no battle of the sexes. We're not against one another. We need to be on the same team, and I also think taking responsibility. I've heard so much talk the past decade of how men are out of balance. But if we live in a realm of equal and opposite forces as we do, then that has to mean that the feminine is also out of balance. So where can we take responsibility to meet our brothers halfway, and support one another and lifting one another up?
Beautiful. I love that. Ben, do you want to go? I'll unmute you for, there you go.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing that we can do, propaganda is what killed masculinity. And we all need to be voices for when we see men acting like men, appreciate that. We need to, when we see people trying to stifle young boys for doing manly things, like that, we live in a world where like that guy who saved that woman from getting mugged and stabbed, and then they threw charges on him. That is absolutely insane. The public outrage should have been overwhelming. Like, men should not be afraid to act like men. And if we take that away and we start promoting the men that do it and stop feminizing our little boys, then we're going to get somewhere. And once again, when men start acting like men, women will start acting like women. And then the whole world gets really fucking awesome, because who everybody loved, every little boy in town, was the neighborhood mom who cooked for them and took care of them and put Band-Aids on their knees. And if you said one foul word about that woman, you had an army of very angry little boys after them. That's let men be men and appreciate it.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. My schedule just opened up a little bit. I just noticed from a text. And so I don't know if there's anything more that you want to say. I wouldn't mind taking a stab, if you guys are game, at this question, balancing the inner male and female. This, I have a lot to say on my side, but what do you guys think?
What's the question?
It is that balancing the inner male and female is a good start to solving the mangling of
Agreed.
Masculine, feminine. Okay. And what does it mean for you, balancing inner male and female?
For me, it's just learning to decipher when I'm coming from my masculine. If I'm asserting, directing, controlling, if I'm generating, I'm a very generative person as a creator. So recognizing when I need to be in rest, in receptivity, just like tracking how I'm showing up in my dynamics. Am I trying to fill the space? Am I trying to run the conversation? Can I chill out and just pull back and observe, see what's happening? Holding space, the feminine holds space for the totality, whereas the masculine differentiates, divides up, judges. It's just starting to understand where and when we're expressing these qualities, and are we expressing these qualities in the most optimal, appropriate ways?
Interesting. What do you think, Ben?
I think that, at least alchemically, the masculine is really the thing that starts out broken. It's polarized against itself. Men, to be a man, to really be the masculine, it has to go against a lot of the feminine things. You are the push. You have to not think about the way people feel while you're moving and things like that. And it's through the feminine that the masculine heals its broken self and comes to realize both sides of things, because we also see men that are absolutely completely feminized, which is where we have like today's trans movement and things like that. Men that are absolutely feminized. And the fact is to be a truly realized man, you're supposed to be that strong leader, but with empathy, like I said, with husbandry, where you're so observant and so loving and paying attention to what's going on that you are automatically trying to make a better life for those things around you. And those things only happen through the feminine side of things, which only comes with husbandry. Like with the dog is acting in the place of a wife. And so without seeing those things to reflect upon as a man, you'll never get anywhere, because men inside themselves are Spartan as fuck. We'll live with a rock and a fire and a slingshot and not care for the rest of our damn lives. So we need that reflection to heal ourselves off of and find that soft side.
Right. Yeah, I take offense to the word balancing the inner male and female, as if that's something that we can do as an activity and a technique. And to me, it's the other way around, that this naturally happens, right? Like heat and cold, it's going to find an equilibrium. It will find it. This happens naturally. And so, for example, in the population that has been indoctrinated, brainwashed, that they could be more feminine, or that they're, maybe they got chemically castrated and they actually are more feminine for one reason or another, then that display of feminine qualities, or back to my corporate days where I would display a lot of man qualities and be a ball breaker in an industry, that this was something that was like a Frankenstein kind of thing, right? So where there's a perceived lack of either feminine or masculine energy, that this, now I'm going to even start confusing myself, but you start to portray energy that you think isn't there. It becomes a persona. It becomes fake. I don't think people should try to balance their inner male and their inner female. I hear what you were saying, Dani, about, am I being too aggressive in the situation? Is there some room to just pull back? And yeah, exactly. But there is a natural shimmering of that. And what is it that creates the impetus for that? Like, how has this conversation been so beautiful, and some might say balance, and not always having exactly the same opinion, but for some reason it keeps building and growing energy and connection, is the will for the connection.
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Also, just that Dani's seeing it from a woman's side, and so are you, Beth, and I'm seeing it from a masculine side, and we're not supposed to do the same things. It's supposed to be a symbiosis, not a sameness, a symbiosis. And so, yes, of course, what we're going to have to do, like we said, women are adaptable. What she was talking about was very fluid, very, you need to move this way or this way to fit the situation. And that wasn't my story. So these both are correct. And both awesome.
I love that. And I love that that's such a, I've put a lot of time into studying capital F feminine, capital M masculine. And it is the capital F feminine that Ben just demonstrated in terms of it's all. We don't have to differentiate between. But perhaps it hasn't been like that for you, Beth. And I totally honor your path. But for me, growing up in Los Angeles, like my household was very feminine. My mother was very strong. I was named after a boy. My parents wanted a boy. I was, training for the Olympics, a very masculine pursuit. We were not allowed to cry, so I had to train myself in these things consciously. And it wasn't until I did that my romantic relationship started to shift, that I started to attract masculine partners. That didn't happen until I rebalanced myself and started to recognize, even though I can do everything for myself, doesn't mean that's what's best for me or the men in my life, because I've learned asking them, especially the single men in my life, asking them to come over to help me with tools and stuff like that is good for them. as it is good for me. But that was a training, because the way I was brought up was, I'm going to do everything myself because I can, and I don't need a man. And I didn't like the lifestyle that gave me.
Right, right. And in those situations where somebody had commented earlier just about, they don't want to be the masculine in their life, but if you're not, and there isn't a real masculine force, like I don't have a brother, I don't have a father, I don't have a husband, all of that. And so I have to show up in that energy. And do you think that ultimately ends up being like a no-win kind of situation? I can hear a program there.
I think that it's, unfortunately, where we're at as a society, think it's a luxury for a lot of us Western women to be in our feminine. But for me, this is the benefit of educating myself on how my own internal masculine and feminine are running, so that I recognize if I'm running a lot of masculine energy during the day to get stuff done, then I need to really be in my feminine in the evening to balance it out so I don't burn myself out. And I see a lot of women and, friends of mine as well, I think they go a little crazy when we're just running all that masculine energy all the time. So I think it's a benefit for single women to be aware, so we know when we need to cultivate more of our feminine energy in a very masculine world.
Nice. Ben, go ahead.
And I think that it'll balance out when there is more masculine energy coming out of men. And I am going to use you as the example, Beth. You definitely have that masculine energy, but the first time I met you, you immediately just went up and put your arm right in the hook of my arm and said, well, here I am. Like, because I'm a much, no matter how strong and masculine you are, you don't touch what I am as a masculine. And you felt safe and comfortable immediately because that energy was there, and men are not showing that energy. And so women don't ever have that chance to get that feeling. They're standing around with a bunch of chihuahuas not feeling safe. And the first time a pit bull walks into the room, they're like, hey, buddy.
Yep. Nice. Beautiful. Thank you for that. And do you guys also want to, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about. Boy, we could spend a long time, and the chat has been really fun as well. Lots of really meaningful comments coming out, appreciating everyone's hair. That's fun. Nice. That's awesome.
Mine's down here, not up here.
Right. I learned in anthropology that hair, as one possibility, was actually an expression of sexuality, because we had to put clothes on. So then we had to do the hair thing. And more hair doesn't mean more sexual. It just is, like, where do you spend your time? Anyway, I don't know if that's exactly 100% true, but
you unfortunately have been put through the feminized society, my friend. And you've been in a feminine society your whole life, including even your comment earlier about power without violence. That's not masculine. Knowing where to apply violence, that's masculine. To not have it, that's neuter. It's a different thing entirely. You can have every bit of ability for violence. Part of what makes the pit bull feel safe and the chihuahua not is because that pit bull, that tier, he's capable of great violence. The chihuahua's not. So you feel safe around him because you know that he, as a good boy, as a realized solid dog in this instance, is choosing when to apply violence.
Yeah.
That goes back to what you were saying earlier, Ben, at least how I interpret it, of like just getting real with how the world works. And it is a violent world. It just is. And it probably always will be. So the healthy masculine knows how to deal with violence, in a responsible way.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. So deep.
The difference between the sheepdog and the predator. The predator's coming to harm. The sheepdog's capable of at least equal violence. That's how it drove the predator off. Violence meets violence, and you need both.
Yeah. Amen. Exactly. So do you guys want to talk about yourself a little bit and what you've got going on, where you'd like to have people find you? Can start with the Dani, if you like.
Sure. You guys can find me at danikatz.com. And I'm a quantum communications coach and consultant. I have courses there, webinars, books. I have a pop propaganda media literacy course for teens and grown-ups. You can find everything on my website, my Instagram, my Odyssey channel, my podcast, all of that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Ben, what do you want to say? I'll unmute you for you. There you go.
Well, come on over, Benjamin Balderson, or up here, Deliberating Dog-Faced Dudes. That's my partner, Marcus. And
Hey, Marcus.
We've been wandering in the debate sphere, and playing around in there. That's been a lot of fun. Other than that, we aren't doing a whole lot yet, just trying to build that up. But we're on every Tuesday night at 6 Pacific. And having a good time. We've had both these beautiful ladies on, and thoroughly enjoyed both. Absolutely, and I thank you guys so much for having me today. I just love talking to both you two. They said, look, Dani did not. It's just wonderful. She wonders why I enjoy it, because when we disagree, we just talk it out, and nobody's offended. We're not like these butthurt penny ante little princes. It's like, that's just insanity, and that's not a strong man or even a strong woman. It's like, this is just a weak human beings. You should be able to have fun. I think you're both just awesome, and I can love to talk to you guys again.
Likewise. Yeah, we'll have to do it again. It is, it's beautiful because, you know, I know I can have Benjamin on. Dani, you and I are getting to know each other, but I feel like it's probably the same situation where, you know, we can disagree and there's just no big deal. It's like, who cares? Is there a lack of love? Does anyone need to be exactly like me in order for me to have a connection with them? No. But am I going to also just say, you know, be a stand for what I want people on my platforms to be able to consider? Absolutely. I will never just whitewash over something and pretend that's okay, because that's not my nature. So this has been fantastic.
I want to echo my gratitude for having me and facilitating this three-way conversation. I love talking to both of you. I think at some point we all disagreed with one another, and I love that. I respect your minds. I respect your perspectives. I don't need you guys to think the way I think, but I love that we get to play together like this.
It's beautiful. It's so creative. It's generative. Right.
Yeah.
Because then you take the seeds of that and they sit in your mind and you're like, wow, I never actually looked at how highly nuanced a certain kind of situation was. And now I don't have to have this big black and white opinion. And maybe my judgment is going to soften in the process of myself or other people going through things, knowing that you're not in their life or their heart or their mind. And it just makes it open. It's high, beautiful energy. So thank you for your contributions. I totally appreciate that. We also have this beautiful kind of high energy going on in the House of Free Will. If anybody is interested to apply to become a member, that's my tiny little secret space where we have family and discussions that are there. There's no fear of like, oh, if someone's going to get upset or they're going to start calling people names or there's going to be some big problem. There was that we got through those days and those people went on their way if they were really invested in that kind of way of being. So you're definitely welcome to apply. You can go to pretty much anywhere. BethMartins.com is the hub of everything for me as well. And yeah, I hope we have more of these discussions. So thank you very much. I want to give credit to my son who created both the starter and the outro for the King Heroes Journey podcast. Tomorrow, I'm going to be live again on these channels, but with Beth of Fresh Air. And tomorrow I'm talking about the theme of belonging. So I'm calling it Beth of Fresh Air Belong. This is a big subject that I think a lot of people will be interested in. Again, highly nuanced. What does that actually mean for us these days in this reality? Lots of love to everybody in the chat. It's been fantastic, the engagement. There's just nothing like these live discussions to bring about joy. So I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. I'm going to play us out, and I think that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Beth.
You're very,
Thanks,
very
Ben.
welcome.
Thanks, chat.
A lot of love. Bye for now.
Bye.